There's a pile of dishes, but I'll wait till tomorrow to get them done. I really need to study for that exam, but let me just finish the show. I have to pay off that loan, but let me indulge in this other thing and I will pay that off later on. We've all been there. If you've ever found yourself saying, I'll do that tomorrow or I'll take care of it later, this video is for you. Today we're going to talk about procrastination and hopefully uncover tips to help us overcome this. Hi everyone, I'm Chizzy and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, you are very welcome, and if you've been here before, love you so much. So like I said, we're putting things off till later, right? It's procrastination technically, but if we're being honest, I chalk it up to being a maximalist. So if we're being literal, right, the word maximalist has several connotations in society, but usually it falls into that school of thought that more is better. So whether that's with fashion, is like, wearing more is better, with decor, all the colors in your home is better. So that's technically what a maximalist is doing. More is better, always. But I've come to realize that anytime I try to tell myself, okay, I have this thing to do, but I'm going to do it at a later time, or I'm putting it off, is because somewhere in my mind, I'm thinking like a maximalist, right? I'm thinking if I don't get 100% of this thing done now, what's the point of even putting in like 5% effort? Like, what's the point of trying to overcome that tiny thing when there's a whole mountain of stuff or like work to get done? So because of that, I end up saying, okay, I'll do it later when I have 100% of the time to complete 100% of the work. But honestly, things just don't work like that. And I know I'm not the only serial procrastinator who thinks like that. So please let me know if I'm alone or if I'm crazy, because I'm sure a lot of us think like this, right? So for example, I've been going to the gym for about 4 years now. I lift weights and I lift heavy. Like, I'm, getting PRs, I'm squatting heavy, deadlifting heavy. So that has always been my thing. But lately, I've realized that I haven't been going to the gym as often because I'm afraid of, if I can't lift as heavy as I typically do, it's going to be a bad workout. So why should I even go? So my brain is telling me basically, if you go to the gym and you lift percent of what you normally do, then your workout doesn't even count because you're not doing the maximum possible. So because of that, I end up being like, it's not going to be a good workout anyway. And so I end up not going that day, or maybe like a couple days out of the week. And obviously, like, that's not good for me. That's not good for anyone, because in reality, and the message that we always preach is that just make a little effort, right? Just try. Even if I went to the gym and I did 40% of my effort, at least I went, and that's better than doing nothing. Let's say there's a task that I'm supposed to be doing, right? So maybe I should be writing a proposal for a business I'm trying to start, or, working on subscription to my YouTube content. And I'm like, well, if I can't do all of it now, why should I even just spend 5 minutes trying to start it off? And I've realized in my life, it affects me because there might be something I should be working on, and maybe I don't know how I'm supposed to address it or move forward with it at that particular time. So I keep on putting it off, and then it ends up becoming an even bigger issue because now I have the problem of not understanding what I'm supposed to be doing. And then you now have the added pressure because more likely than not, if you procrastinate, you're trying to do this at the 11th hour and you are rushing. There is no time. It's chaotic. Like, nobody wants to be in that situation, honestly. So the best thing to have done would be to maybe spend 5 minutes yesterday brainstorming the idea, another 5 minutes in the evening maybe looking up applications for the idea, and then little by little I start to chunk off on that work that I have. But obviously this is not the case because our brains are like fighting us when it comes to procrastination. Maybe everything I've been saying just doesn't make sense. It's either you're a procrastinator or maybe you're a visual learner. So let's take a look at this image. So on the first part, we see a straight line. There's no etches in there, there's no steps, and this is what progress looks like to some people. And then we take a look at the image on the right. It has steps, you can take rests, but it's still a path to progress. And this is typically what life looks like. Now, if you are the person on the left trying to get to your ultimate goal of completing a task, of losing weight, of paying off your loan, anything, if you want to get to the top of that line, you have to make one huge ass jump to get from the bottom to the top. Like, who is able to do this? No one is able to do this. Because first of all, it's a steep slope. There's nothing helping you. There's no brakes. It's quite literally impossible for you to get to from 0 to 100 in a straight shot. On the other hand, if you approach this the way we as procrastinators should actually be approaching things, you would realize that, maybe I take one step today, I rest. I take another step today, I rest. And then before you know it, you've gotten to the top of that staircase. You've gotten to your goal, but obviously it didn't just happen at once. It wasn't this maximalist ideology that we have where everything should just be big and grandiose and take place all at once. No, in reality, things do take steps. You've probably heard about the 10,000 hour rule, right? It was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers. And the point of that is that it takes someone 10,000 hours to become a master at anything. So for you to become good, like for example, LeBron James, he didn't just become who he is today, right? He had to practice, take several shots, take several increments of practice sessions for him to get to where he is. And so that's ultimately him climbing that staircase gradually. In what world do we think we'll be able to learn guitar when you can't even pick it up for 10 to 30 minutes every day and practice? Or that pile of laundry you have at home that's just chilling and you're like, oh, it's too big, I'll just do it later. Guess what? It only grows bigger. You know, you could have started by maybe doing half of it today and the remaining half tomorrow, but you know, sometimes we just procrastinate. But the truth is, progress isn't about completing everything at once. It's about taking small incremental steps that help you get to your goal eventually. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by the enormity of a task, you are not alone. But today I want us to talk about some practical applications that can help us mitigate procrastination. And I use the word mitigate because if you are a procrastinator like me, you're probably an overthinker, you're probably a perfectionist, and you have all these mental obstructions that hijack your thought whenever you are trying to do something. So this is something we cannot eliminate in one day, right? And that's why I say mitigate. We're going to take steps to reduce the risk of us actually procrastinating. And eventually, we're going to get to the point where we don't even need a second to get to the thing we're supposed to do. The first tip I have for you is to start treating your procrastination like it's a habit, because it is a habit. It's something your brain has been programmed to do without even thinking. The way you build a bad habit, you can actually unbuild a bad habit and replace that with a good habit. So if you've ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, I love that book. If you're into any sort of, productivity, habit building, I highly recommend it. But he talks about the habit loop, and this is how we build habits, right? So first you have a cue, and that is what triggers the brain and initiates the behavior. After that, you have a craving, and that's the motivational force behind every habit. Next up, you have a response. So that is the actual habit, which can take a form of a thought or an action. And then lastly, you have the reward, and that is the end goal of every habit. So for a bad habit, for example, binge eating, your cue is, oh, I'm hungry. Your craving is, oh, now I want to eat food. I want to eat excess amounts of food because that's what binge eating is. And then the response is, oh, let me sneak off to the pantry at 2 a.m. at night and get all the food I want. And then your reward is that you become satiated, you are happy, and you probably feel satisfied, like you've quenched your thirst. So that is what a habit loop looks like for a bad habit. But now how can we reverse that and use that habit loop to build a good habit, thus eliminating procrastination? Okay, so let's say, for example, your bad habit is that you're not going to the gym, right? You have the goal to go to the gym, but you keep putting it off because from all the videos you've been watching on Instagram and on the internet, it just looks so complicated and you feel like you have to be lifting the most at the gym, or you have to be doing all these weird, complicated exercises you see on the internet. But what if it can really be more simple like that? Your cue is going to be, I want to go to the gym, because that's what you really want. You want to go to the gym so you can get stronger, you can get more fit. And then your craving, I think this is a very important part to consider. Your craving should be tied to a positive response. So your craving would be that I really want to be able to run around with my son whenever he's playing so that I can be an active part of his life. So now you've initiated that as your craving. You have your cue, you have your craving, and then your response is you actually going to the gym and getting a workout in. Now, what I want you to adjust in this response parts is take your time. It doesn't have to be you working out 5 times a week when you're just starting. You should try going twice a week. Maybe next time you go 3 times a week. Maybe next time you go 4 times a week. Whenever you do go to these sessions, maybe you do 3 exercises, and then the next time you do 4, and you start to build a plan for your workouts. But with that response, you want to try to be as on extreme as possible, because when you start taking things to the extreme, going to the gym 7 days a week, like, no, you're going to get tired. You're not going to want to do that for a long time. And so once that's your response, right? Okay, you start going to the gym, taking things easy, your reward then becomes, before you know it, after some time, you're running around with your kids and you feel strong, you're able to spend more time with them. And that's such a positive response. And because you have such a great response, and you have like this increase in dopamine, that makes you want to do it the next time. So that's how the feedback loop works. Your cue affects your craving, which affects your response, and ultimately affects your reward. And that reward makes you want to do it again. So if you have a pile of dishes in your sink, maybe your reward is that your place is not stinking, right? Maybe you have an exam to study for. Maybe your reward is that there's a party tonight and you want to enjoy it without having to think of all these other things. So make sure you're setting your reward in place, and make sure with your response, you are taking things step by step. Now, if you don't like the idea of the habit loop, maybe that was a little complicated for you. There's even something more simple that you can implement today, and that is called the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule was coined by Mel Robbins, and it basically follows the school of thought that your mind has about 5 seconds before you start to overthink things. And this can affect anything from, deciding if you want to talk to somebody, to deciding if you want to walk into that room, deciding if you want to start working on that thing. And so when you act within those 5 seconds, you stop your brain from overthinking or from going to that overthinking mode. So that interrupts any thoughts of you not getting to what you actually want to do. So let's practice. All right, so I go to a networking event and there's somebody there that I really want to meet. And I'm like, oh my God, should I go and talk to them? Once that thought comes into your mind immediately, it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, my name is Chizzy. How are you doing? Like, straight up, don't even let negative thoughts come into your mind and interrupt you from getting to that task. Now, what I want you guys to do is think of something in your life that you have been procrastinating on. Maybe you need to stand up and call your dad. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, Dad. It's as simple as that. And hopefully these tips would help us become better people. I procrastinate. I'm sure you watching this video, maybe you have that problem. Hopefully we're able to implement these tips and eliminate procrastination. Progress only comes from taking small steps every day. And that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and become a part of the family. And hopefully I will see you soon. Bye.